Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. This is your tip of the week. I'm going to demonstrate a really quick cutting and sewing technique that'll help speed up the process of making a variety of projects. And for those of you who like to sew and sell, you're going to want to watch this one because you can make a lot of things so much faster. Okay, let's get started. Here is a quilt I made years ago, and I do not have a tutorial on this. And I spent a summer trying to perfect how to make a half square triangle. And look at all these little pieces. It took me forever, and I was very frustrated because it took so long. So what I'm going to do is show you how to take two pieces of fabric, cut it, stitch and cut it, and by the time you're done, you have 8 of these made. Let's say you're working on a project that requires you to make some half square triangles in a particular size, and it doesn't matter what size it is for this technique. So what you want to do is you're going to cut out 2 pieces of fabric that are larger than what your pattern requires. So let's look at some sizes that your pattern may ask you to make. It could be anywhere from 2.5 inch, 4.5, 6.5, 8.5 inch, or even more. So that's what the pattern says that it must be finished at. So what you're going to do is you're going to do this simple math formula, and this is really easy. Multiply that size, let's say they're 2.5, times 2, that equals 5, and add 1, so 6. So you need to cut out 2 squares that are 6 inches squared. And then as you can see, it goes on down the line. So if you want a 4.5 inch square, you need to cut out 2 10 inch, 6.5 you need to cut out 2 14 inch, and 8.5 you need to cut out 2 18 inch. When you're done, you will have 8 half square triangles out of these squares. I'm going to make my half square triangles to where they're about 4.5 inches, and it's a great size for pot holders, so that's why I like using that size. So here are my 2 10-inch squares. Now you want to make sure that there's a sharp contrast between them so that your half square triangle or your triangle shape shows up. So I've chose these 2 squares. Now you want to set your darker one aside and focus on the lightest fabric that you're using and turn it over to the back. Now as you can see, I already have my lines drawn on it. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to draw a line going from the center point across this way and then from the center of it across this way. So because this is a 10-inch block, you want to measure 5 inches in, and that'll be your center. The next thing you want to do is take your ruler and do a line or draw a line from corner to corner this way, and then from corner to corner this way. And if you're doing a lot of half square triangles, to speed up your process, take all your light fabrics first, draw your lines on it. Then when you've got all your lines drawn, then go ahead and take your other square, your other darker fabric, and you're going to bring front sides together, or pretty sides. So here's my pretty sides. I'm going to match it up, and you want to line it up really well. And then you want to pin it, and you want to pin on the lines that are your X shape. So you're going to pin it all the way across this way and then pin it across this way. At this point, you want to use a 1/4 inch wide foot. And in a moment, I'll show you another way to do it if you don't have the 1/4 inch wide foot. So you're going to stitch 1/4 inch from on each side of the line. So you're going to go out this way 1/4 inch, and then on the other side 1/4 inch. And do the same thing on this line here. Now, if you don't have a 1/4 inch wide foot, then you want to draw 4 more lines. you're going to go out this way and draw a line 1/4 of an inch away and do the same thing here and then of course over here. Now I drew these little dash lines. It's just so that you understand the dash lines are your stitch lines. So then you go ahead and pin everything together just like you did on the other one, all the way across on all the lines, and then stitch on those little dash lines that I have here. These pink shaded lines are your cutting lines. And another little type of cutting mat that I'm using here is this Lazy Susan mat, so that when you're doing your cutting, you don't have to pick and twist and turn your blocks so that you can cut them. So if you do a lot of piece quilting, or you have even just smaller projects, a lot of small projects, and you have to cut a lot, this is a great little tool to have. And you can buy these at Joann Fabrics and Crafts. I'm not sure if they have them at Walmart, but I know you can get it on the internet also. So now I'm going to demonstrate how to cut on these pink shaded lines. All right? So I'm going to cut across through the middle. And now don't turn your fabric, just you can lay this down and then turn your little cutting mat, line it up, and then cut, and then don't move your fabric, just turn your little cutting mat, place it on there, and then you're going to cut across. And one more cut, oops, and then we're done. And then do your last cut on this line here. So now you have all of these little half square triangles. Now take your stacks of your half square triangles to your ironing board. Have the darkest fabric on top. And you're going to press these seams and then open it up and press on top. And you're pressing your seam towards the darkest fabric. If you're making a quilt with a lot of half square triangles in it, it's real important you square these little blocks. Because if you're making a big quilt, if your half square triangles are just slightly off, it's going to cause a lot of distortion. The bigger the quilt, the more distortion. If you're just making a little pot holder or a small project, you don't need to worry about it so much. So I'm going to take the diagonal line on my ruler and I'm going to put it on this center seam right there. And I want to make sure it is 4.5 inches square. And this one is just a little big, so I'm going to cut this side and then this side. Then I'm going to take this corner and bring it over here. I'm going to put the line, the diagonal line, back on top of the seam. And now I'm going to take my 4.5 inch lines on my ruler and put it on the 2 previously cut edges. So line it up, still making sure that this diagonal line is there on the right spot, and finish cutting. And there you go. So here's your 8 half square triangles. Now when you're placing them in your project, you can twist and turn these half square triangles in a variety of directions. So I'm going to take these 4 away and show how you can give this kind of look, like that. So this makes a nice pot holder doing it like this. And then you can place your other pieces like this, and you can continue this pattern and make a table runner. Here's one of my favorite layouts, and it's called a pinwheel. And I make a lot of pot holders in this pinwheel shape. You can also make big pinwheels for a quilt and even a table runner. And remember, you can make them in a variety of sizes. So here are some really tiny little pinwheels. And what you could do is take two of these little pinwheels and lay it out like this. Then have some other squares, some solid squares colors, and they're just one square. And you have two pinwheels, two solid squares, and it makes another nice little pot holder. So there are so many different shapes that you can do. Here's one more layout of half square triangles that I just love doing, and that's making a friendship star. So you put a center square here, and then take 4 of your half square triangles and put them in like this, and then fill in the other 4 corners with solid squares, and you have a friendship star pattern. Here is my friendship star quilt. So I made several of those star blocks and put them into a quilt, and this is a wall hanging. And so I have a sleeve at one edge along here. Now, if you're interested in making this quilt, I do have a tutorial on it, and the link is listed below your YouTube screen. So you just scroll down to the description section, click on the down arrow to expand that section open, and you will see the link to this quilt and many other links. And so if you're interested in other quilting projects or beginner sewing projects, then also check below your YouTube screen for those video links. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.